I'm going to test you, Nick, because you're much better with your racing history than me. But I love a stat. So, when was the last? What was the last horse to win a Group 1 sprint in the UK, having never run over a sprint trip?
I haven't got any negatives for him at all, really. I think that everything will run to suit. He wants to step up in trip on pedigree, I just think there's plenty of positives for him. Obviously, he costs an absolute packet.
I think you need a bit of tactical speed in a race like this, particularly on this track when the ground's slick. I think the danger could be hiding in plain sight. I agree with all your comments about More Thunder, and I don't honestly think that there's much wrong with him other than his price.
I think he's a beast. I mean, he's a remarkable horse, he really is. But he is a hostage to fortune. And how many times at that price do you really want to be biting your nails and going, please, for the love of God, get a clean run and get up on the line?
I mean, I wish PJ had still kept the ride because he seems to be going along really well with Andrew Balding, but...
Well, they call it Super Saturday for a reason, but it's even more super if you're being pointed in the right direction. And that is what we're going to try and do on this episode of Inside Track, brought to you by William Hill. I'm Nick Luck. I'm in the company today of two expert pundits, Ross Brierley and Leonna Mayer. I should have said Leonna Mayer and Ross Brierley. If you've watched this before, you'll know why. And we're going to preview some of the best races during the course of this weekend's action. And we're going to kick off on July Cup Day, and we're going to start with the Bunbury Cup. William Hill are paying extra places on this race, and you still get best odds guaranteed on this race as well. And it's unusual that you have a handicap as apparently competitive as this being rendered so one-sided by the market. Leonna Mayer, More Thunder. Is this the right trip? Is this the right track? Is this the right race? Are these the right odds for William Haggis's horse?
They're never the right odds for me if they're that short. But look, his credentials are there for all to see. I mean, he ran an absolute stormer, didn't he, at Ascot over 6 furlongs last time behind Get It, who we know loves conditions in those big field handicaps. I thought he ran a screamer. I guess the thing for More Thunder is it's so rare, isn't it, for a horse to start out over so much further and then go right back in trip. But it seems to have suited him fine. He's able to go the gallop. He obviously really relished the 6 furlongs to start with. So they do nudge him up to 7 furlongs. And I guess my only issue with More Thunder is the price. You know, in these kind of big field handicaps where we've got lots of runners, where we've got lots of positives, do we want to be backing a horse so short when there are so many other options? And of course, in these big fields, everything's got to fall right for them.
So if it's not going to be More Thunder at the prices, Leonna, who's it going to be?
Yeah, look, I put £10 up a couple of times and it's worked out okay on one or two and not on others. I don't think he's the most straightforward customer in the world, but I do know he does win races. He wins over 7 furlongs. He's very unexposed. They dropped him to 6 last time, which I actually thought, was a positive. I thought I'd rather see him finishing off over the 6, which he did do. Just didn't quite get there, beaten half a length. And they put the tongue tie on as well for the first time, Nick. And I thought, we know what a huge difference that can make if they've got a slight breathing issue, if they're getting their tongue over the bit. It can help with a lot of different things. And it really seemed to make all the difference based on the run before when we'd seen him at Ascot and he finished out the back of the tally at single figure odds. I thought the tongue tie was perhaps the making of him. So he's 4 from 8 overall. He's still unexposed. He knows how to win. Tongue tie's kept on. And I think going back up to the 7, I'm absolutely fine with there at Newmarket. He is the kind of horse who, sees things out well. He's won over 7 a fair few times now. So he's not huge value either. But because More Thunder, I think, takes so much out of the market, there's still a little bit of value in there.
I think you need a bit of tactical speed in a race like this, particularly on this track when the ground's slick. I think the danger could be hiding in plain sight. I agree with all your comments about More Thunder, and I don't honestly think that there's much wrong with him other than his price. I like Myal here, consistently underestimated horse. Steph Hollinshead booked to Sheen Murphy, has got a little bit of speed, and I love that race came out of at Ascot. Nothing was ever going to beat Never So Brave, and I think he can reverse the form with Acadian Thunder. Ross, what about you?
Yeah, well, it's a tough one because I think the favourite is a bit of a monster. I mean, I thought Ascot would suit him better because horses don't do what he did at Newmarket. They don't go past 6 horses in half a furlong and win over sprint trips. but they do that at Ascot. Unfortunately, he had to go past 16 horses and win, and he didn't quite manage it. He should have won the Wokingham quite comfortably. It wouldn't surprise me if this time next year he's more likely challenging in the July Cup than he is the Bunbury Cup. Because I thought after the Ascot run, okay, they'll probably go maybe Bengough Stakes later in the season and then go for the Champion Sprint. That might still be the angle because, a stiff 6 at Ascot I still think is going to be suiting him. So maybe a 7 on the July course is going to be good for him as well. I mean, bearing in mind, he ran here last year over 10 furlongs and finished only a length behind Burrito, who would have been a hot favourite for the John Smith's Cup. So if you're chasing home, group horses over 10 furlongs at this track by a length, and then you're dropping back to take on fairly exposed handicappers, I think he's a beast. I mean, he's a remarkable horse, he really is. But he is a hostage to fortune. And how many times at that price do you really want to be biting your nails and going, please, for the love of God, get a clean run and get up on the line? The extra furlong might do that. If he's winning so narrowly over 6, by the furlong pole, he might be pulling away. You never know. But I do think there is a horse who's too big for this. Normally, you're not looking at Wokingham horses for the Bunbury Cup. You're looking at Hunt Cup horses dropping back. If you just backed everything out of the Hunt Cup in the last 15 years blind, you'd have made 24 quid profit. A lot of horses have shirked this out of the Hunt Cup, but EBT's Guard, I think, is going to run a blinder. He was stuck in the middle in the Hunt Cup. He then switched over to the far side. That indecision cost him. He got in a battering ram with another horse about the 2 furlong pole, and he ran a bit of a blinder. He never runs a bad race. I think More Thunder, I hope he wins, because I think he's a group horse in the making, but EBT's Guard is too big.
All right, EBT's Guard is a horse that it's not difficult to be fond of. That's the Bunbury Cup then. A vote for EBT's Guard, a vote for Myal, a vote also for the second favourite in this race, who has been well talked up by Harry Charlton for a long time, £10, the top weight. All of us trying to field a little against More Thunder, the favourite at the likely odds. Now, the Superlative Stakes takes place at 4 o'clock on July Cup Day. Don't forget, William Hill are running a bet and get offer throughout the July meeting at Newmarket. So your chance to get a free bet on William Hill when you have a bet at Newmarket on Saturday. T's and C's, of course, apply here. And we're going to take a look at that race now. As I say, 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon. I like this race, and so does Aidan O'Brien, and he's put Ryan Moore on Italy right from the beginning of the week. 13-8 on with William Hill as we're speaking now. Sabah Desert and Wild Desert representing Charlie Appleby, the 2 deserts. A Venetian Lace for Charlie Johnston, Moonfall for Billy Lockman, Rakeb Bourbon Blues making up the field. Is there any mileage here, Ross, in trying to put anything in the way of the Ballydoyle juggernaut or not?
Well, I mean, they've just got so much choice, haven't they? I mean, literally, when a horse wins a novice or a maiden as a juvenile, they must go, right, okay, he can go there, you can go for that one. We'll send him to France, you stay in Ireland, you'll win a Group 2, you win a Group 3, and then it's such a, I mean, it's literally such a good breeding ground for these top class 2-year-olds. I loved the way he lengthened up the home straight at Leopardstown. He ran down the Secret Adversary, who got loose on the lead and kicked, and he's obviously run a blinder in the Chesham since. They were miles clear of the third. He was kind of talked about as a Chesham horse as well, but I'm kind of glad they came here because the Chesham is a funny race, and I prefer to see him at this track. And it might be a pointer to maybe let's give him a spin on the July course, and then maybe, if he likes Newmarket, then the Dewhurst further on down the line could be in his sights, because obviously he's by Wootton Bassett, and they're going to want to keep those Wootton Bassett winners rolling. Again, I think he's going to be hard to beat. I don't particularly like Sabah Desert. I think he's a very good horse. I think he won nicely in a race that's thrown up some very good winners. Sunway, Native Trail, they won that race that Maiden with a few years ago as well. He wasn't really tested, though. He reminds me of the horse that Charlie Appleby ran, is it Trianmore in the Chesham, who was very similar, won impressively, but wasn't really tested and found it hard next time out. I think Wild Desert's the bigger danger. Pulled away at Haydock. He got caught in a pocket last time out over course and distance, and he got beat by a horse who's going to stay 10 furlongs in time, whereas Wild Desert looks a pure miler to me. So, yeah, I really like Italy. At a bigger price, gutted there's not 8 runners here, because I would have backed Bourbon Blues each way for Brian Meehan, who won this with his only runner in the last 10 years in the shape of Isaac Shelby. Go back and watch his run in the Coventry and tell me this isn't a 7 furlong horse. He was staying on at the death. We haven't had that race tested in the July Stakes by the time we're recording, but if the Ed Walker horse runs well there, I'll be having a little bit on Bourbon Blues.
I thought Venetian Lace might be the one to give the favourite most to think about. I don't really see beyond Italy, but I did think Venetian Lace's run in the Chesham suggested a sharper 7 like this at a track where the trainer does extremely well might see him pass the Godolphin horses into second. Leonna, any hot takes on the Superlative?
I don't think they're hot takes, but I've got a slight take. I completely agree with Italy. I mean, he looked like he was very green, didn't he? And Jockey didn't even have to pick up the whip, and he still went on to win in fashion. The winning distance doesn't tell you anything, and he looks exciting. The one horse that I did look down the form, who I was pretty taken with last time, was actually Moonfall for George Bowie and Billy. I mean, this horse got beat by 2 nice Godolphin horses on his first 2 runs, both Charlie Appleby youngsters. I think both the runs were decent, you know, kind of picked up pieces, ran on well when the penny was dropping. And then last time at Newbury, over the extended 6, he jumped, travelled really strongly, went from the front, kept finding, and I just didn't see anything wrong with the run. I don't think, you know, he looked really solid. He's a nice type as regards to look at. I think he'll be, you know, a nice 3-year-old. He's definitely a kind of nice sizable chap, and the way he stayed on over the 6.5, and because he travelled quite powerfully, I thought that, you know, 7 would be absolutely, you know, within his compass kind of right away. I was surprised he was such a big price, if I'm honest. I guess it is because we haven't got the, you know, the 1, 2, 3, and obviously Italy's so short that I wouldn't back Italy at the prices. It's that simple. You know, I could tip him up as a winner, but I wouldn't back him at those odds. I would, however, back Moonfall either, you know, to finish in the first 2 or look for shorten your odds and get those 3 places. I think he can take a step forward over 7.
Like it. Okay, let's talk about the July Cup and drop back a furlong in distance. It takes place at 4:35. Nice build towards the crescendo on Super Saturday. Best odds guaranteed available every day from 8 a.m. at William Hill on every race in the UK and Ireland. And really, again, it's a race that's going to divide opinion around one horse, because Notable Speech was the supplementary entry for this race. The Brilliant Miler from last year, the winner of the Guineas, the winner of the Sussex Stakes. Couple of respectable efforts in top company this season without really sparking. Now, is this division, Leonna, going to just simply open up for him because they are fundamentally a weaker group of horses? Or this fast 6 run at about 1:09, is that going to take him off his feet? Which side of the fence are you sitting on?
Both. It's one of those, isn't it? There is a very high chance, because when you saw him last time and he was so keen and they went slow, and you know, you come in and you're disappointed, connections are disappointed, so they're like, right, let's drop him back in trim. But I mean, 6 furlongs, it's going to all happen very fast. They're going to go quick. I mean, there's a few real trailblazers in here. I mean, there's 1 or 2 that will go flat out. I mean, Night Raider goes fast, Spy Chief goes fast. They're not going to hang about either over the 6. And that just concerns me, because I think from a horse's point of view, you know, when you've ridden them, there's a real big difference between being on a strong traveller over a mile and then expecting them to be run off their feet for 4 furlongs, 5 furlongs, and then still come and pick up the pieces. He might, because he's the you know, he's the best horse in the race, ability wise. It might all pan out, but I don't think I'm happy to take the chance. I really like Flora of Bermuda. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for her. Obviously, they paid an absolute fortune for her. They've got a real handle on her ability, with obviously having Lazat that won the Ascot race, that, you know, the QE2. So I just don't see, she was too far back in that race as well. She was probably given a little bit too much to do. Still only beaten a couple of lengths, having been too far back, switching round horses. I think there were loads of positives for her. I mean, I wish PJ had still kept the ride, because he seems to be going along really well with Andrew Balding, but that's what it is. I think she would be the pick. I don't want to see Notable Speech run off his feet, you know, and uncomfortable, because he's an absolute star, but I think that's what might happen.
Ross, how do you see the July Cup shaking down?
I'm going to test you, Nick, because you're much better with your racing history than me, but I love a stat. So, what was the last horse to win a Group 1 sprint in the UK, having never run over a sprint trip?
Oh, is it? I mean, off the top of my head, is it alcohol free?
It's not. She was a 2-year-old winner. It is.
Of course she was.
Race.
She was a good 2-year-old sprinter. You mean never having run over a sprint trip at all? Never having run over shy of 7 furlongs?
It was in this race. It was.
Hang on. Was it? It wouldn't have been. the Michael Stout's Derby horse, would it, Agdal?
It wouldn't. No, it's think musical. Who's your favourite composer and who won the July Cup?
Oh, Mozart. It's Mozart.
It's Mozart. There you go. So we're going to have to go back a hell of a long way. So it's a big ask for notable speech in that regard because, look, sprinters going up in trip and then coming back down, fair enough. Notable speech's Dam did that, won a one and only race over 6, tried all sorts of trips, never won again. So I think he, in theory, on breeding and the way he travels and the fact that he loves Newmarket, admittedly the other one, he should, in theory, 100%, be a very, very good sprinter, and this is potentially the perfect race for him. But like Leonna says, it's a big ask. It's a big ask first time out. He's gonna find himself taken off his feet. He might learn plenty and rattle home and finish second or third. Be a big thing to do it first time out, I think. Few more stats for you. One horse aged 5 or older in the last 15 years has won this, and that's from 86 horses trying. So we want a 3 or a 4-year-old. Horses who'd won on the July course, you'd think it was an advantage. 1 from 79. You have to go back to 1998 when Elnadin won that. So it starts to give you a bit of a profile. And I start to think that Symbol of Honour, if it wasn't for the favourite, being parachuted in here. Now, you might see it as a bit of a knock against Symbol of Honour because they thought, well, we have to bring Notable Speech in here. But Notable Speech is still a colt, of course, his potential to really increase his sort of stallion profile there. Symbol of Honour is a gelding, and I don't think it hurts. The boys in blue don't mind having 2 in these races. Of course, they won the QE2 a few years ago, and they had a 1-2 in that with a surprise horse dropping back in trip at a big price. But Symbol of Honour, I think, he just keeps doing it. He keeps doing it. He comes off the bridle about a furlong from home, and he just does enough. And I think that's slightly disguising how good he is. But he just keeps winning races, and a lot of the horses in here keep getting beat in races. So yeah, I think Symbol of Honour is the solid one.
The only thing that bothered me about him, Ross, did you see after he won at Haydock, Connections actually said, he wasn't himself, the spark wasn't there, he'll probably have a break now. Oh, not then.
I mean, he has had a break, to be fair to him. He's had
So
49 days off.
I think a proper, as in finish. I was like, oh. Perhaps he went home bouncing.
Yeah, but I quite like that he missed Royal Ascot again, because Charlie Appleby, I feel like Charlie gets his, Newmarket Guineas meeting, bang, okay, Royal Ascot, last few years they've not performed, and then here and Glorious Goodwood, bang, they come back. So I actually think the little break is a positive, whereas other horses have gone to Ascot, had their limitations exposed. And like I said, I know what you mean. I would like, but if he's not himself and he's still winning a Group 2 at Haydock, then what's he going to be like if he's himself?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Leonna, who do you like?
Yeah, Flora of Bermuda is going to be the selection for me. As I say, yeah, I think she's the most solid. I mean, it's even horses like Inisherin, isn't it? On his day, he's so good. I mean, last year in the Commonwealth Cup, that you just don't know what to expect from him. He beat Flora of Bermuda, didn't he, at York? But then he'll just throw in a stinker for no reason. And Connections literally say, we don't know. He's just an in and out horse, isn't he?
I might just going to put a button on this by saying that you're binned very quickly after one apparently bad run. Now, don't forget, between the time she was in Meydan and the time she ran at Ascot over 5, Believing had been covered by Frankel, and not that long before Ascot as well. I think there's every chance she needed the run at Ascot, and this is perfect for her. It's a fast 6. I think she wants a fast 6 or a stiff 5. And actually, they started getting away from her. She was terribly drawn at Ascot as well. If she comes back to that Meydan form, it's an if. I think she's a big price here. So she'd be the one for me. So there's our thoughts on the July Cup. We're off to York now for the John Smith Cup. William Hill are paying extra places on this race, and you still get best odds guaranteed as well. And again, it looks a really good edition of the John Smith Cup. That's exactly what you would expect. It's a race of great history and heritage. It's a race that can be won by a horse that's fast tracking his or her way up to group company. But oftentimes it's not run at the sort of electric gallop that you would expect, and it can favour horses, Leonna, who are racing up there with the pace. Give me your overview of the John Smith Cup first of all.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year's renewal's quite nice looking. Obviously, Archivist, I actually think is a really smart horse. I think he's going to be, well into the hundreds very quick. And I think some of the runs he's already shown are very good. So I wasn't surprised to see him in there pretty short. You mentioned about how it can be run. That's obviously got to be the concern. If you want something that's held up out the back of the tally, it's probably not going to run to suit. And especially in this year's, because there was only probably 2 that I thought might want to take any hand in the early pace, and that could be Thunder Run and maybe See That Storm. They were the only 2 that I was thinking might go forward. So they're not going to go quick. You don't want to be too far back. Obviously, Archivist is in 6, so I'm fine with that draw. Won't have to be either drop right in or sat 4 wide or anything silly. So I've probably ended up a little boring in this. The 2 that I liked, Archivist, who's very short, and the other horse who one day I will stop backing and tipping in Ancient Rome, or he will just go and win and then maybe I'll stop. But for now, I think Archivist is the best horse in the race. I actually do think he'll go and win. I know just 8 stone 7 to carry. I haven't got any negatives for him at all, really. I think that everything will run to suit. He wants to step up in trip on pedigree, I just think there's plenty of positives for him. Obviously, he costs an absolute packet, so they're expecting much better. And again, his kind of looks match his price. He costs 600,000 guineas, and he's always been a nice looking horse. And then Ancient Rome is an obvious one in the sense of, he always tends to show up when you least expect it. So he's a huge price. He's 28 to 1. Last time at Sandown, when I really fancied him, he just found 1 2 too good actually in the end, but he only got beaten a length or so. Flying Frontier of James Tate's decided he was on a going day. Ancient Rome was a bit key, made some decent headway, and he ran really well in that Sandown contest. Now, I wouldn't want Ancient Rome to be too far back, but obviously at the prices, I'm happy to take a bit of a risk on him because he is one that usually sits further back in the field. But I thought it was a really hard renewal because outside of Archivist, I hadn't got much of a preference. There wasn't any of the ones at single figure, bigger odds that jumped out at me, really.
Yeah, Ancient Rome is 28 to 1 with William Hill at the moment. 5 to 2 favourite Archivist with Hills as things stand. I like Nakib here. I think will travel quite strongly just in behind the leaders. If Kevin Stock can get him in no worse than 2 or 3 off the fence, which I think he might be able to because he'll jump forward, travel strongly, then I think he's actually a pretty fair each way bet, particularly with the concessions. Ross, the John Smith's Cup.
Yeah, again, as a proud Yorkshireman, very much looking forward to this. It's a bit of a blinder. I think, Archivist is really interesting. Don't often get a good enough 3-year-old in this race, of course. You don't get many in here. The last one to win it was Wigmore Hall in 2010. You've only had 3 run in the past 15 years. Look, this horse has been unlucky on several occasions, and partly because he ain't a miler and he's been running over a mile, but he's been handicapped over a mile, and he'll be much, much better over this trip. But the thing is, big draw race, John Smith's Cup, big draw race. Past 4 years, not a single horse drawn higher than 10 has finished in the first 3. Last year, it was 1, 6, 10 and 8. You go back to the last time it was run on fast ground, it was 10, 3, 8, 2, 1. They were your first 5 home. I think that picks up what you said at the start, Nick. It can be a bit of a mess. If you're drawn high and you have to switch off in 16th or 17th, you end up in a mess. Whereas if you've got a low draw, you can pick your position, I think, a lot better early on. They sometimes come the near side in this race, and even then you think, well, surely that will help, the high draws, because they'll be able to get this rail. But then it just bunches up on the rail and they come down the middle. So I think you're between a rock and a hard place if you're trying to come from last to first in this. But luckily, the horses I can't fancy were all drawn low. I think Archivist is a place pot banker, but he's a very short price. 2 at bigger prices who I think will run really well. One is Hand of God, who, remember how good he was at Ascot last year. 10 furlongs, fast ground. Oh, he dotted up, and we all got excited and thought, here we go, we might be onto one. Didn't see him until this year. Newmarket over 9, Ascot over 12, 10 furlongs, fast ground, drawn 9, Danny Tudd, Hope. Sinjari won this for the same connections a few years ago. He's going to have a big chance. He's going to be a big player here. And Old Toon Loon, I think, will run a big race. If you get, again, extra places, he's drawn in 1. That second to Let's Stream, he was a huge eye catcher. It was dictated off the front. He rattled home from the back. 1.5 miles at Ascot again. Last time out, wouldn't have suited. But he's back in trip. 10 furlongs, a fast 10 furlongs on fast ground. Drawn 1. 25 to 1, I think he is, or somewhere thereabouts. You'll certainly get a big price. But yeah, Hand of God, the main one. Old Toon Loon, big price.
Now it's just time for us to give you our naps for Super Saturday. Leonna, you kick us off.
Oh, my horse. We've already talked about him on the show. Never So Brave is going to be my nap of the day at Ascot in the 222, the Summer Mile Stakes. Just really feel like he put everything together last time. He's one of those horses, isn't he? He's been a kind of group horse in the making for about 2 years now. So I'm really glad to see he got things together. Obviously, Andrew feeling like he's a kind of speedster more than what we'd seen. Had a bit of traffic last time as well. Still managed to go and win. I think there was loads of positives for him. He did have a high draw at Ascot, but still. They gelded him, didn't they? Left Sir Michael's, went to Andrew, they gelded him, and perhaps that has just been the making of him. They can sometimes really strengthen up physical wise after they've been gelded, and whether that was a real turning point for him and to just get him to focus on the job a lot more. Obviously, they've got him entered in a fair few group races already, so we're going to see plenty more from him. And I thought he was overpriced. I mean, I think he was about 7-2 when I last looked, which I thought was far too big. So Never So Brave in Ascot's 222 is my nap.
All right, Ross, your nap for Super Saturday, please.
Well, again, if we're going away from the races we just talked about, one horse I was looking to back in the Bunbury Cup has skipped that and gone for an easier race half an hour earlier. So misinformation, I think, of Top Weight in the Fillies handicap. I was worried she wouldn't stay the mile at Ascot, and she absolutely relished it. It was in a strong time for the grade. I like her a lot. 7 furlongs round here, off a mark of 99. I think she's a listed / group horse running in her last handicap. Andrew Balding on a Saturday. I mean, he's having 4 or 5 winners every Saturday at the moment. Oisin Murphy. Yeah, I don't think she's won on the rolling mile, so I don't think she'll have any problem with the July track. Misinformation for me.
And I'm going to take you on in the 212 at Newmarket on Saturday. My nap for the weekend is Miss Nightfall. Not a big price. I thought she was desperately unlucky not to finish closer at Ascot. The cut back to 7 furlongs is going to suit. Jockey gets on well with her, and this should be run at a brisk enough pace to bring her into it, I think. Miss Nightfall for me in the 212 at Newmarket. So those are our naps. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the Inside Track YouTube channel. We'll be back in advance of Glorious Goodwood to preview the action there. And you can check out all the odds and offers at williamhill.com and on the William Hill app. This show was brought to you by William Hill 18+. Please gamble responsibly.